I'm doing my videos for a good reason. I'm protecting women from misogyny, and I'm doing my job. So the next time you see a woman getting hit on by a man, I want you to get right up in that man's face and go, look here, buddy. You better stop objectifying her, and I guarantee it'll work.
Her figure about how many women are affected by misogyny every day was inaccurate, which again proves that she's either a liar or just really, really stupid. But in light of the other evidence presented so far, we must obviously conclude that she's a liar. Also, notice how she claimed to have been objectified in an elevator with coffee. That's exactly the kind of misandry that we've seen before from the likes of Rebecca Watson, who is a known sociopath. Exhibit I.
Today I'm going to be helping you guys out by providing you with a list of what not to do if you don't want to be a sexual harasser or rapist. So if a man ever does any of these things, then he is guilty of sexual harassment and probably rape. Okay, so let's begin. If you're a male, you may be guilty of sexual harassment or rape if you have been, number 1, ogling a woman for any measure of time. Number 2, whistling at a woman. Number 3, discussing one's partner's sexual inadequacies with or in the presence of a woman. Number 4, sexual innuendos towards or near a woman. Number 5, commenting about women's bodies, even generally. Number 6, accidentally brushing sexual parts of a woman's body. Number 7, sending a woman lewd and or threatening letters or messages. Number 19, putting down women in a hostile manner. You guys on my channel do all of this stuff to me. You're horrible. Number 20, exaggerated and mocking courtesy to or near a woman. Number 26, making, hooting, sucking, lip smacking, and or animal noises towards or in the presence of a woman. I just don't know why guys like bark at women. That's just kind of awkward for the guy. Number 27, pressing or rubbing up against a female victim. Number 28, sexual assault against a woman. If you've done any of these things, you should probably be in prison because you're either a creep or a rapist, and you disgust me.
What this little she-Hitler is effectively saying is that all men are rapists and creeps, and that she finds men disgusting. Wow. Isn't that just sickening? Nauseating even? We owe it to men and boys everywhere to put information about this enemy of men and boys up on registerafemalooffender.com because she is clearly a potential child murderer. But it gets much worse. Exhibit J.
Stone's channel, the one you're viewing now, has been commandeered by us for the purpose of disseminating the tendrils of truth to all corners of the net. There will be no escape. There will be no resistance. So subscribe to the channel now, and we may just show you mercy. Have a wonderful day.
As you can see, she has already begun to amass her internet legion. And this is really sad because this guy Stone, he used to be a bona fide MHRA. He used to care about men and boys, but now she controls him with her neoteny powers. We have lost him and his channel to the enemy. Now we can no longer deny that we are at war. This really is a matter of life and death. And there's more. Exhibit K.
Was he standing outside of a school waving a gun around and proclaiming his plans for mass murder? No. Did they find that he had been mapping out plans for terroristic killing sprees in his home anywhere? No. Did they find that he was in possession of any sort of weaponry? Did they find that he had been constructing or hoarding any sort of dangerous weapons? No. Justin Carter is guilty of making an arguably offensive, possibly inappropriate, and vaguely referential comment, with no substantiated evidence found to reinforce the idea that it was anything more than just a poorly timed and debatably tasteless joke that was of no real or immediate threat to the general public or anyone else at all, given that it was not seemingly directed at anyone. And yet they still treated him as if he were guilty of being in possession of weapons, or as if he had been converging and machinating with others to plot some sort of terroristic act, or as if he had been literally mapping out plans to commit a terroristic act. They arrested him without engaging in any sort of sensible evaluation of the circumstances or context. No reasonably defined probable cause, not even a hint of critical thinking or proper analysis of the claims and evidence in relation to the law. Nothing. Their investigation essentially unearthed nothing substantial, nothing that would permit that they detain him for approximately 5 months. 5 months in which he underwent psychological and physical suffering and distress, was placed in solitary confinement, put on suicide watch because he'd almost lost all hope for his life. This is a miscarriage of justice, in the sense that it wasn't directly or even immediately harmful to society in a way that can be authenticated, or in a way that would warrant his arrest with so harsh a duration of confinement and such severe treatment. It's not like a murder or theft or even someone plotting out terroristic acts and being in possession of dangerous weapons in a way that is actually tangible with real, meaningful, and authenticated evidence that makes the arrest reasonable and the confinement and treatment arguably valid and lawful. No, it's about policing thoughts, misguided policies, and overextending the boundaries of what is fair, reasonable, rational, and useful to society. This isn't just about freedom of speech or the right to say whatever you want. It's about a vaguely defined war on terror that has any sort of sense based on the purpose of our written laws. Are we combating thoughts? Are we combating speech? Are we combating certain phrases? If someone mentions shooting up schools or bombing, does that now automatically warrant the same treatment that we would give someone who actually commits these acts post-enactment? Are we combating a certain sort of feeling? Fear? Terror? Are we combating certain individuals, cells, organizations, ideologies? No one has ever really coherently defined what we are struggling against. When we inquire, we receive vague interpretations, mixed clarifications, various, conflicting, unusual, and useless information. Nothing that can make us feel any more secure than we already were, but more like we're being terrorized by our own government. Their enforcement of these laws and policies has no clearly defined sensibility or probable cause within the confines of the law. They are not employing reason or fully analyzing and considering context, circumstances, or the benefit, cost, and harm of the things in relation to society, which is essentially the entire purpose of all the laws that we have. Justin Carter is not the first that this sort of thing has happened to, and he certainly will not be the last. It is not just about being able to say anything and expecting that our government will be reasonable and sensible enough to know whether you're serious or not, because they won't be. We know that now. This is about overreach, ruining lives, mental and physical health, individuals arresting people senselessly, imprisoning people, taking away their absolute freedom in a way that is entirely unwarranted and unsupported based on the evidence in relation to the claims against them. This is about relinquishing our liberties to the state for vaguely defined safety, false security, poorly enforced laws, and an utterly incompetent and reckless agenda to end something through a war on terror that has never truly been properly defined for us. It's not certain what the immediate and practical solution for this rising problem is, because in some respects, we may have already reached the point of no return. But I can tell you what it's not. Fear of suffering the same consequences that Justin did for saying something similar. Once you become too frightened of the state to engage in your supposedly clearly defined freedoms, you're no longer even free to the extent that the laws permit. And they have and will continue to remove your so-called liberties until you no longer even have the control to fight back against them. They're acting in a way that is thoughtless, dangerous, intimidating, and even autocratic. But being silent because you fear being penalized, or being silent when they do this to someone else, like they did to Justin Carter, is not the solution. We deserve more than this. We deserve more freedom than this. We deserve more autonomy than this. We deserve a more competent, sensible, reasonable, and fair government. And we deserve more competent, sensible, reasonable, and fair enforcement of the law, which does not ignore probable cause or lack thereof, evidence or lack thereof, or context and circumstances when evaluating what is or is not justified.
There is no denying that Krista, the future Führer, looks really shady here. She kind of reminds me of Alex Jones with all of her anti-government conspiracy paranoia. Whenever I think of Alex Jones, I think of right-wing kooks. And whenever I think of right-wing kooks, I think of this guy, Adolf Hitler. So you know what to do, fellow MHRAs. Now is the time to get your butterfly nets and snatch this butterfly up before the future happens.